Have you ever seen something so old, so beautifully made, that you just have to ask, what is this? Well, that's exactly what we're doing today. We are diving headfirst into a real archaeological puzzle, the mystery of China's ancient jades.
Okay, let's just jump right in. Look at this thing. Seriously, this is called a Cong. It's this incredible tube of jade, and get this, it was carved almost 5,000 years ago. It's kind of weird, right? Super complex, but also just beautiful. The big question, though, is what in the world is it?
And right there, that's the heart of the mystery we're tackling. What were these things actually for? And maybe even more puzzling, why would a culture from the Stone Age, we're talking no metal tools here, spend so much time, so much incredible effort making them? Let's dig in and see what we can find out. So, to really get a handle on these objects, you gotta know who made them. So let's go back in time and meet the folks behind these masterpieces, the Liangzhu culture. And this timeline, wow, it really shows you just how ancient we're talking. The Liangzhu culture pops up around 3300 BCE. That's way, way before any of the famous Chinese dynasties you've probably heard about. We're smack dab in the middle of the Neolithic period, the New Stone Age. It's mind-boggling. So who were these people? Well, the Liangzhu settled in what's now China's Jiangsu province. And yeah, they were a Neolithic culture, which means they were shifting from being nomads to settling down and farming. But, and this is a huge but, don't let that Stone Age label fool you. These guys were brilliant. They created some of the most sophisticated jades, ceramics, and stone tools around. For their time, this was cutting-edge stuff. And out of all the amazing things they made, their most famous and most mysterious creations were these two special types of jade objects. So now let's zoom in and really look at the two shapes that have kept archaeologists scratching their heads for years. And here they are. On the left, you've got the bai, that flat circular disc. And on the right, the Cong, that square tube thing we saw at the beginning. They look totally different, don't they? But they were both made from this precious jade. And it's super clear they were both incredibly important to the Liangzhu people. Okay, let's focus on the Cong for a second. The key thing to get here is its shape. It's always a square on the outside with a circle on the inside. That's not a coincidence. It's not just how the stone happened to break. This was a design choice, a very specific and meaningful one. And then you get closer, and the details are just unreal. The main design you see is this face pattern. It's like a mix of a human figure and some kind of mysterious animal. They carve these little faces right under the corners. And the best guess from experts? They probably represent spirits or maybe even gods. And this really just sums up the whole problem, doesn't it? I mean, listen to this quote from the source material. Quote, Kongs are among the most impressive, yet most enigmatic of all ancient jade artifacts. Their function and meaning are completely unknown. Completely unknown. Just let that sink in. We have these stunningly beautiful objects, but why they were made? That's a total mystery. You know, to really get why these things were so special, you have to understand how crazy hard they were to make. They were carved from a type of jade called nephrite. And here's the thing about nephrite. You can't just chip away at it like you would with flint or marble. Nope. You have to grind it down bit by bit using sand. It's a process called abrasion. Can you imagine how long that would take? The amount of skill and pure patience is just off the charts. All right, let's switch gears to the other key object, the bee. The definition is pretty simple. It's a wide, flat jade disc with a pretty small hole in the center. And just like the Cong, this wasn't just some random shape. They made this exact form again and again on purpose. Now, other cultures made stone rings, sure, but these big, heavy jade bibi, that was a Liangzhu specialty. And the best ones? Oh man, they are polished so perfectly on both sides that they almost look wet, like liquid. To get that kind of finish using Stone Age tools, it's just staggering to think about. Okay, so if we don't know what they were used for, how can we be sure they were important? Well, like any good detective story, the biggest clues come from the scene of the crime, or in this case, the scene of the burial, because that's where we find them, in the fancy tombs of the Liangzhu's most powerful people. And this is super important. You don't just find these things in the ruins of a regular house. They only show up in these big, elaborate tombs. That tells us right away these weren't everyday items. They were luxury goods, status symbols, tied up with power, religious ceremonies, and whatever they believed about the afterlife. And we're not talking about just one or two. Get this. In one single tomb, archaeologists found 25 Bai and 33 Cong. Add that up, that's 58 of these insanely valuable, hard-to-make objects, all for one person's burial. That just shows you the insane value they put on this stuff. The way they placed them in the tombs wasn't random either. It was all very deliberate. The absolute best bib discs were put right on the body, usually near the stomach or chest. Other jades were lined up perfectly with the body. It's clear they were following some kind of script, a specific ritual for burial that, unfortunately for us, we can only guess at now.
So, after looking at the evidence, piecing together all the clues from the tombs, studying the objects, where does that leave us? Well, honestly, we're still staring at a giant, unsolved puzzle.
And it all comes back to this one basic conclusion from the experts. You hear all these cool theories, right? Like maybe the round sheng represents heaven and the square Cong represents the earth. Or maybe they were some kind of ancient astronomical device, or symbols of power. But at the end of the day, the most honest answer is, we just don't know for sure.
So let's break it down, what we know versus what we don't. We know they're made of nephrite jade. We know there are two main types, the Bai and the Cong. And we know they were buried with the elite. But what we don't know? Well, it's a big list. We don't know their real purpose, what those faces mean, or what the shapes themselves were supposed to symbolize.
Yeah, their real meaning is just lost. It's like a faint whisper from a culture that disappeared thousands of years ago. But what isn't lost, what's right here in front of us, is the object itself. Its sheer beauty, the mind-blowing skill that went into making it, and of course, the mystery that it still holds for us today. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. Here we are, thousands of years later, and these things can still stop you in your tracks. They're still powerful. So, if we can never know for sure what they originally meant, does that make them less important? Or, and I kind of like this idea, does the mystery itself become part of their story? A new kind of meaning that they hold just for us?